given this thing's reputation, I don't know how much fury I'm just gonna bring down on myself for saying this, but it's not that bad. The Twin Dilemma, Doctor Who classic review time. Spoiler warning up front, because I am going to be talking about how the whole thing goes. But given that this is not a particularly well-regarded episode, I suspect a lot of people are not going to worry about being spoiled for it anyway. So this is Colin Baker's first time out as the Doctor, following the regeneration, coming off of the Caves of Androzani, one of the best regarded episodes of classic Doctor Who. And this thing has an atrocious reputation. You often find it in the upper echelons of top 10 worst episodes of classic Doctor Who, if not of all time of Doctor Who. It keeps showing up over and over and over again on those lists, and I watched it and I went, I don't get the... What's the opposite of hype? I don't get the reverse hype. So, now, let me be emphatic about this. It's not good, but I don't... Look, guys, maybe I'm just not completely tuned in to classic Who fans yet, because the stuff that I see wrong with this, and there's plenty, and I'll get to it, is all stuff that I've had classic Who fans tell me I'm a killjoy or I just don't get it when I complain about these same things in other episodes. The bad costume design, the poor creature design choices, the wonky wobbly sets, very mixed bag acting from the guest stars. Like, I've complained about this stuff in other episodes and have been told basically, oh, I just don't get it. And yet all that stuff is present here, and somehow nobody likes this one. I don't know, maybe there's a line that gets crossed in this one and I just don't know where the heck that line is, but I'm sitting here watching this just going, okay, this stuff is not any worse than I like. Look, here's an episode that I've seen that is worse than this. That's The Power of Kroll. Now, The Power of Kroll, which was a Fourth Doctor episode, that has a lot of the same stuff. Bad designs on the aliens, the sets are literally wobbling when they get brushed against. The performances by the guest stars are not necessarily bad performances, but they're not helping, they're not adding anything to it. But that is a genuinely bad episode, and this, I would say, is better than that, if for no other reason than The Power of Kroll doesn't have a story. I mean, its story is so simplistic, it doesn't need to be told really at all, certainly not over multiple parts. This story is a pretty standard Doctor Who story of the era, and it's got the kind of, space sci-fi concepts and ideas that Doctor Who is good for and is known for, and they're about as sound as most other stuff. So given that it has that, and all the other stuff is stuff that, again, I don't necessarily like and isn't good, but I've seen defended in other episodes, I just don't see why so much hate gets piled onto this one. Now, having done a weird sort of not quite defending it, let's talk about what actually doesn't work, because there's plenty. I mentioned the wobbly sets. I try not to bring up wobbly sets too much, because I understand that they were on a tight budget. It was something that happened. But for crying out loud, when you have a panel that a character, it's not just a background piece, a character has to interact with it, and it shakes back and forth every time it so much as gets bumped, just put a shim under the thing, level it out. Yeah, Really? No, but just somewhere in a back union closet somewhere, there wasn't just a little shim of wood to level the friggin' thing. No, I don't believe that. That's not wobbly sets because you have no budget. That's wobbly sets because somebody or multiple people even are going, screw it, that'll do. And that, I'm sorry, you don't get a pass for that. I'll excuse limited budget. I won't excuse apathy. And that's the only thing that I can come up with for how wobbly some of this stuff is. In terms of designs, the villain, I think, suffers the worst from this, with Mestor, who's this sort of big slug thing. And the design, it's not the worst design for a villain creature that I've seen in Doctor Who. But I think this is kind of what I was talking about when I've complained about things like how the Matrix appeared in The Deadly Assassin and things like this. It's not that it's poorly executed for what the idea is. The idea is flawed at the inception level, because this is your main villain. More to the point, he starts appearing episode 1. He's not like a reveal villain and you get him later. You're dealing with him pretty much immediately. And the guy can't perform behind that mask. Like, you can see his jaw vaguely moving, but he's got this locked off mask thing. I don't know if maybe the theory was, well, we get away with it with the Cybermen, but the Cybermen are robotic. I mean, they're not actually robots because, you know, augmented humans and all that, but they're robotic, they're metallic. You can have that. This is supposed to be an organic being. When it's this locked off mask with just this chin waggling a little bit at the bottom. No, you don't get away with it, especially because it muffles the performance. And I don't just mean the words. Like, I feel really bad for the actor because he's trying. You can hear it in his performance. He is working so hard to give a performance through this mask. And I think, honestly, he does about as well as he could have done. But if they just put him in anything other than that, he probably would have been a kind of compelling villain, but he just looks ridiculous, and the camera keeps lingering on this face that doesn't move. So that's what I talk about when I complain about the designs, not the final execution of how it turned out, because, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but like that idea, how did nobody realize, boy, this is our main villain who we're going to be seeing a lot of. Maybe he should be able to emote a little better than this. And nobody thought that. Again, screw it, that'll do. So that's my issue with that. I mentioned mixed bag acting from the supporting cast, and actually that isn't that bad either. I mean, the twins are a little annoying, but they're not awful. They're not as bad as Adric was, and they're very much in the same mold as Adric, now that I actually stop and think about it. But some of the other characters, the Jakardians, the sort of bird-ish people, they're fine. That design, you know, it looks ridiculous, but I'll roll with that way better than the slug guy, because I look at them and go, okay, that looks ridiculous, but it also looks not human. They can give a performance. You can see them move. You can see them emote. Cool. It can be saved by a decent performance, and they're fine. They're functional. Asmael, the Time Lord, or Edgeworth, he pretends to be, who the Doctor encounters there, he's actually quite good. He's actually a really good supporting character. And I, like, for comparison, for the last one I did, ooh, hey, way better. Castellan, I mean, that guy, God, he was dead weight. This guy isn't. He actually even has a fairly moving performance part towards the end as the character's dying. So, I mean, he works really well. But I've been kind of dancing around the elephant in the room to a certain degree, haven't I? And that's Colin Baker. Is Colin Baker good in this? No. But this is literally the one kind of story that I will give a free pass to the performance of the Doctor on. It's the post-regeneration story. The Doctor's always wonky post-regeneration. Now, is this worse than other times? Well, yeah, in a lot of ways on a lot of levels, but we kind of also had a heads up. I mean, as Peter Davison, right before regeneration, he said something like, something's off, something's wrong. I forget the exact line. Somebody will tell me in the comments, I'm sure, because they always do. So, you know, we got this heads up that things are going to be weird and off. And especially with that as the lead in, it's one of those things that, like, in hindsight, knowing how he would continue to play the Doctor overall, you can look at this episode and go, man, there's all the things that are going to be wrong throughout his run on the show, at least. As I said, I'm starting to get into Big Finish, and he's better there. But that's hindsight. Like, if I had watched this at the time it aired, I probably would have gone, boy, I'm really worried about the Doctor. I'll wait and see, though, because, you know, you give him a freebie on the first one. I mean, Peter Davison played the Doctor really weird and funky and not very representative at all of how he was going to continue to play the character in Castrovalva. So, you know, like I said, Colin Baker is not good. Well, the conception of what they're doing with the Doctor, I don't want to say Colin Baker is not good. I think Colin Baker is doing what he was asked to do, but it was the wrong approach. So is it working? No, it's definitely not. But again, I feel like it's hindsight. It's like it's the kickoff to an era that everybody hates, and so people just love to pile on this episode. And again, guys, it's not that bad. I mean, as bad as the slugs look, as far as the plan to basically blow up the planet that they're on, and so that their super heat resistant eggs just spread out and land on planets and then incubate, that's a decent enough threat. The whole idea of trying to fix a planet by getting other planets to orbit it and fix its orbit and get synchronization going and to have them be out of time, like, that's a nifty sci-fi solution to the situation. And even the whole thing with like Mestor like getting into the guy's mind, which is weird, since when can slugs do that? That's a very tacked on villain ability, but whatever, let's go with it. Like that, and the whole way he's defeated, that's very Doctor Who too. So I mean, like, the ideas are sound. It's just like I said, it's not good. I just don't understand why it gets piled on as much as it is. And coming back to Colin Baker, so I think the thing is, and the reason he doesn't work even in isolation really in this episode, although, like I said, if I was watching at the time, I would have given him a pass on this occasion, probably only this occasion. But you're watching it, and the thing is, he keeps flipping back and forth, and you get early on that he's basically in a manic state, just flip-flopping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the thing is, he never seems to settle on anything that's pleasant. It's basically a question of, is he completely out of character, i.e. cowardly, violent, or is he just insufferably smug? Because that's like the best he comes off. And I think the most telling thing is that he doesn't want to help anybody. Like, he wants to save Perry maybe once after he abandoned her. And again, I get he's flipping back and forth, but at almost no point in any of his shifting about and his kind of ravings is he being a good person. Like that's not even a flicker. Like, he has to be convinced by Perry to not let this guy who just survived a ship crash die. She had to basically strong arm him into saving somebody's life. And if you're gonna have the Doctor go arrogant, especially, with 5 incarnations of to varying degrees, benevolent, caring Doctor, to then do this, it's not like you're shifting his personality. It's like you're ignoring everything that came before with that kind of, representation and persona. And the Doctor, the Doctor can save people and be snarky about it, be grumpy about it, seem annoyed by it, but he should want to help. He shouldn't need to be talked into having to help. Not this far in, anyways. Like, the only Doctor that I'd be okay with that being the case is Hartnell. Like, way back then, fine. Early days, he needs to be talked into action sometime. This? No. But again, first time out, I still would have given a pass to that. I think maybe with one exception. There's one moment that I think was really ill-advised. So, the very end of the episode, the Doctor says to Perry, I'm the Doctor, whether you like it or not. He might as well have turned to the camera and said, hey, audience, I don't care if you miss the old guy. You got me now. Suck it up. I mean, like, how confrontational. Like, and again, I think it just speaks to the wrong-headedness of the whole era. And I don't want to put that on Baker himself. There was a lot of just the mentality of that era just wasn't working. And I think that line basically exemplifies it, because when we have a new Doctor and the Doctor regenerates, what should happen is the new performance, the new actor should be showing us why we can love this Doctor too. Not telling us that we're stuck with him and we better love him. Not like that's just being a jerk. That's the character being a jerk. That's the show being a jerk to its fans. My God, imagine if Jodie Whittaker's first episode ended with her saying, I'm the Doctor whether you like it or not. People People would lose their minds in the worst way if she did that. But they friggin' did it. I think that's about all I've got on this. Like I said, it's not good, but I don't get why it's put in like worst episodes of all time category. In most areas, it's not any worse than any other episodes that I've seen, much better regarded than this. Maybe it's just the confluence of how many things aren't working. I don't know. It's a classic Who episode that I watched that I won't ever watch again, but wasn't painful, and I was kind of expecting it to be. I'm almost slightly disappointed on that measure. So, yeah, that's the twin dilemma. Have you seen this thing? What did you think about it? What is so awful about it that I'm not getting? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Do all the stuff, the likes and subscribes. I got Twitter and podcast and a Patreon if you're the generous type. Links for all that stuff is down below, and until next time, this council is adjourned.